Hey guys, and welcome back to another Savvy Homemade video, and today we're going to be making a lovely face scrub that will exfoliate your skin but also nourish it at the same time. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off by measuring out 15 grams of our shea butter and popping that into a beaker that is either Pyrex or some other heat-proof container. Our next ingredient is the peach kernel oil, and my original recipe calls for apricot kernel oil, and really there's not very much difference, so don't worry too much. So for the peach kernel oil, we'll need 20 grams of that. And the last ingredient for our oil phase is the emulsifying wax, and we'll need anywhere between 10 and 15 grams of this. Today I'm using 12, and it really depends on your type of emulsifying wax. I'm using cetyl alcohol. However, if you're using something like, I've used emulsifying wax NF before, and that's really needed 15 grams, I would say just get used to using your emulsifying wax and you'll have a better idea. But usually between 10 and 15 grams for this amount of cream or face scrub like we're doing today is more than enough. So now that we've weighed out all of our oil phase ingredients, it's time to weigh out our water phase ingredients. And first up is going to be our hydrosol, and today I'm using a rose hydrosol. It's one I've made myself, because you'll notice in a minute it's actually quite dark red in colour. This shouldn't affect the overall colour in the end, it will just make it a little bit more beige. And if you were to purchase a store-bought version, it's very unlikely to have this sort of deep colour, just because it's more processed in industry. So I've wanted 35 grams of the rose water, and then we're going to add 25 grams more of spring water. And our last water phase ingredient is the vegetable glycerin, and this is a fantastic ingredient. It's really skin softening and it's extremely nourishing for our skin, and we're going to need 10 grams of that. So now that all of our water and oil phase ingredients have been measured out, we're going to want to pop them into a water bath, and in order to do this, just set up a pan with a few inches of water and then leave it on a medium to high heat just to allow it to reach a good temperature. Once it's simmering, just turn the heat right down. You definitely don't want it on a high heat at that point. So what we're doing here is we're allowing the emulsifying wax to melt and mix in with the rest of the oils and our shea butter. So we're going to want to leave this for about 20 minutes, although make sure you do keep your eye on it. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer on a colder day. On a hotter day, it might be a little bit quicker. So 20 minutes roughly have gone by, and it's time now to combine our water and oil parts together. And in order to do this, you're going to want to pour the water into the oil, because otherwise you'll lose far too much oil on the side of the beaker, as water has a little bit of a lower viscosity than oil does. So now that our two parts have been combined, it's time for us to give it a whisk. When you come to make this yourself, you'll notice that at this point it's a little bit hot still. So in order for it to thicken, it will need to cool down while at the same time whisking. So what I tend to do is I'll give it a whisk, leave it for 5 minutes, then come back and whisk again. And usually after a few goes, or repeat it a few times, it will thicken up considerably. You'll also notice just then it looks like it's separating, and a little bit of a whisk will just sort that out. So just keep doing that until it's thickened. Okay, so you'll notice that it's considerably thicker now. It's much more of a cream texture, even though we are making a face scrub today. But this is the sort of texture and consistency you're looking for. So now that it's cooled and thickened, it's time to add the last of our ingredients, and starting with lavender essential oil. My original recipe calls for rosewood essential oil, but lavender is great too, and we're going to want about 10 drops of that. And our next ingredient is our preservative, and this is a bit of a controversial ingredient because obviously it's not natural. We don't really want anything that's not natural on our skin. However, it's kind of necessary here with the water and the oils and shea butter. You'll get far too much microbial growth without a broad spectrum preservative. Here I'm using 0.5 grams, although you can use as much as 1 gram, but I would always make sure to check with the manufacturer guidelines of whichever preservative you're using, because that should give you an indication of how much to use in percentages. So our last ingredient is of course our exfoliating agent, and today I'll be using poppy seeds. However, you can use cranberry seeds, you can use jojoba beads, crushed almond shells, bamboo powder, oatmeal, or I've also used sugar before in the past, but obviously you'll want a little bit less sugar than you would in an ordinary sugar body scrub because we're using it on our face. So once you've added that, you want to give it all a good whisk again, just to make sure all of our ingredients are fully combined, the essential oil, the preservative, and obviously our poppy seeds. So our final job now is to spoon it into our chosen cosmetic jar or container. I'm using a PET plastic container. This is really good because it's quite inexpensive. However, you want to be careful to store it out of sunlight as it's not coloured, and like you would get a cosmetic jar that's made of glass. Often they're blue or brown. So yeah, glass is the other good material to use for a container. And you can also use aluminium as well. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make a face scrub. For more DIY crafts and homemade gift ideas, visit savvyhomemade.com.